Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Old people who always masturbate always end up. You know, when you first hear a title like, old people who always masturbate always end up, your first reaction might be to laugh, cringe, or wonder what kind of wild topic this is. But I want you to stop for a second, because this isn't actually a speech about sex. It's a speech about life. About patterns. About how the things we do over and over again, especially the things we do for comfort or escape, shape who we become, whether we realize it or not. Let me tell you something that I've learned from years of coaching people, watching people, and living my own messy, complicated life. Everything you repeat becomes who you are. Every habit, every choice, every little thing you do to cope, it adds up. It builds your future. So, when I use a title like this, it's a mirror. It's a way of asking, what do you keep reaching for when life gets uncomfortable? Because we all have something. Some people reach for their phones and scroll for hours. Some grab a drink. Some overeat. Some binge watch shows until they can't feel their own thoughts anymore. And some, yes, retreat into their own private little world of instant gratification, whatever that looks like. But what's really happening underneath is the same thing. We're avoiding something. We're avoiding loneliness, or fear, or pain, or regret, or even the feeling of being stuck. And that's the point. It's not about the act, it's about the avoidance. Because if you spend your life soothing yourself instead of challenging yourself, you wake up one day realizing that all those little comforts added up to a life that feels comfortable, yes, but also empty. See, comfort is seductive. It's easy. It's safe. It whispers to you, you deserve a break. You've been through a lot. Just relax. And sometimes that's true. Rest is good. But there's a huge difference between rest and avoidance. Rest restores you. Avoidance drains you. Rest is intentional. Avoidance is reflexive. And here's the thing. The older you get, the deeper those reflexes go. They harden into your routines, your personality, your identity. Before long, you're not even making choices anymore, your habits are. Think about that. If you've been doing the same thing every time you're stressed, bored, or lonely, then who's really running your life? You, or your habits. The people who grow old with energy, curiosity, and passion, the ones who are still learning, laughing, trying new things, they're not the ones who stayed comfortable their whole lives. They're the ones who broke their patterns. They're the ones who looked in the mirror and said, you know what? I'm done living on autopilot. I'm done escaping. I'm ready to feel again, even if it's uncomfortable. That's courage. Courage isn't about doing something big and dramatic. Courage is about doing something different. It's about saying, instead of numbing this feeling, I'm going to sit with it. Instead of distracting myself, I'm going to listen to what it's trying to tell me. Because every time you choose awareness over avoidance, you take back a little bit of your power. And I know that's not easy. It's actually one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because we live in a world that trains us to escape. Everything is built to help us avoid discomfort. One click, one swipe, one order, one scroll. You can avoid almost anything now. But you can't avoid yourself. No matter how much you distract or soothe or entertain, you still wake up with the same emptiness until you decide to face it. So, when I say, old people who always masturbate always end up, what I really mean is this: people who never break the habit of avoiding their truth end up trapped by it. They end up older, yes, but not wiser. They end up comfortable, but disconnected. They end up alive, but not living. And that's heartbreaking, because every single one of us was built for more than comfort. We were built for growth, for connection, for creation, for love, for contribution, and none of those things grow in comfort zones. They grow in discomfort. They grow in honesty. They grow when you stop running from yourself and start being real about what's missing and what needs to change. So I want you to think about your own life right now. What's the thing you reach for when you don't want to feel something? What's your pattern? Maybe it's a behavior, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a thought you keep repeating to yourself. And then ask this, what is that pattern costing you? Because everything has a cost, even the things that feel good. If you're always numbing yourself, you're missing the opportunity to grow stronger. If you're always chasing pleasure, you're missing the deeper satisfaction that comes from purpose. If you're always escaping, you're never really arriving, not anywhere, not in yourself, not in your life. The truth is, fulfillment doesn't come from comfort. It comes from effort. It comes from showing up, from taking risks, from learning how to sit with the parts of yourself that hurt, and still choosing to move forward anyway. It comes from saying, I'm done hiding. I'm ready to live wide awake. So, no, this isn't really about old people. It's about all of us. Because we're all getting older every day, and if we're not intentional, our patterns will become our prisons. But if we start paying attention, if we start breaking those loops, even in small ways, we can rewrite our endings. We can end up not just old, but alive. Not just surviving, but thriving. So, maybe old people who always masturbate always end up comfortable, but stuck. Relieved, but restless. Safe, but small. But the ones who stop running, who face themselves, who choose growth over comfort, they end up vibrant. They end up full of stories, full of love, full of life. And you can choose, right now, which kind of old person you're going to become. Because the truth is, you don't get to control how old you'll be when your time runs out. But you do get to control how alive you'll be when it does. And that starts today, the moment you stop soothing and start living. Comfort is one of the most seductive traps in life. It feels warm, safe, and deserved. You tell yourself you've earned it, the right to rest, to relax, to take it easy. And yes, rest is necessary. But there's a fine line between rest and retreat, between recharging and hiding. The moment comfort becomes your default, it stops being a reward and starts becoming a cage. Here's the truth. Everything that grows must be stretched. Every muscle, every mind, every dream. Growth never happens inside your comfort zone because comfort's job is to keep you exactly where you are. It whispers, you're fine here. Don't risk it. Don't bother. Don't change. And the more you listen, the smaller your world becomes. You stop taking chances. You stop asking hard questions. You stop trying new things because you don't want to feel the sting of failure or the uncertainty of effort. At first, that might feel peaceful, less stress, less struggle, but over time, that peace turns into stagnation. You're no longer resting, you're rusting. Think about the people you know who have lived the same year over and over again, not because they lack potential, but because they chose comfort instead of challenge. They repeat the same routines, the same habits, the same distractions, telling themselves they're content when deep down they're not. That's the cage. It's invisible, but it's real. And it's built out of every small decision to stay comfortable instead of courageous. The irony is that comfort feels safe, but it's actually dangerous. Because while you're busy staying safe, life is moving forward. Opportunities pass by, relationships fade, dreams get quieter. The walls of your comfort zone start closing in until you can barely see beyond them. You begin to mistake ease for happiness, but they're not the same thing. Happiness is active, it's alive, it's built through movement, effort, and growth. The people who feel most alive aren't the ones who avoid discomfort, they're the ones who use it. They see fear as feedback, not a stop sign. They understand that the only way to expand life is to step into the unknown. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're not just breaking a pattern, you're widening your world. You're proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. So ask yourself right now, where have you gotten too comfortable? Maybe it's your job, your routine, your relationships, or even the way you think about yourself. Comfort isn't the enemy, but it can be a thief, stealing your ambition, your creativity, and your potential. Freedom doesn't come from comfort, it comes from growth. The moment you decide to lean into discomfort, to take that risk, make that change, speak that truth, that's when the cage begins to open. And on the other side of that door is a life that feels bigger, brighter, and more fully yours. Your life is not built by the big moments, it's built by the small ones you repeat every single day. The truth is simple, but most people overlook it. You are not what you say you'll do, you are what you repeatedly do. Your habits are not just actions, they are votes for the kind of person you are becoming. Every morning you hit snooze, every time you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, every time you scroll instead of creating, you're casting a silent vote for who you'll be 6 months, a year, 5 years from now. Those small, seemingly meaningless decisions are shaping your identity, and your identity is what determines your future. We love to believe that change happens through motivation or inspiration, that one great speech, one book, one moment will flip a switch inside us. But that's not how it works. Real change doesn't come from what you feel, it comes from what you practice. Your habits are training your brain every day. They're either training you to grow, or they're training you to stay stuck. If you wake up every day and do the things that make you proud, even small things like making your bed, showing up on time, drinking water, speaking kindly, you're building evidence that you're reliable, capable, and worthy of trust. That evidence becomes your confidence. It becomes your identity. And once your identity shifts, your behavior naturally follows. You no longer have to try to be disciplined, because you already see yourself as someone who is. But the same principle works the other way, too. If you constantly give into avoidance or instant gratification, you start to see yourself as lazy, unmotivated, or the kind of person who never follows through. And once that identity takes root, it's hard to break free, not because you can't change, but because you've convinced yourself that you are your habits. Here's the good news: identity is fluid. You can change it, one habit at a time. Every time you make a new choice, no matter how small, you're voting for a new version of yourself. You don't have to overhaul your whole life in a day. You just have to start acting like the person you want to become, even before you believe it. Ask yourself, what would the best version of me do right now? Then do that. Not later. Not someday. Right now. Because repetition rewires your brain, and every repeated choice is a message to yourself saying, this is who I am. It's not your goals that will change your life, it's your systems. It's the things you do when nobody's watching. It's the moments when it would be easier to give in, and you don't. That's where identity is built. So, if you want to transform your life, don't wait for motivation. Build habits that match your future self. Because your habits are not just what you do, they're who you're becoming. And the person you're becoming, that's the person who will determine everything else.